You ever hear about those students who achieve just incredible things, even when it feels like the whole world is stacked against them? Well, today we're going to dig into some of their amazing stories and unpack the science behind how they don't just survive, but actually thrive. Okay, let's get into it.
Just listen to Khadija Williams. She spent most of her childhood homeless, sleeping in shelters, cars, wherever she could. In her own words, she was doomed to fail. And yet, she graduated from Harvard. Just incredible.
Or how about David Teplitz? David has non-speaking autism, which means verbal communication is, well, it's just incredibly difficult. But he found his way to participate, typing out his thoughts one single letter at a time, and went on to graduate from UC Berkeley with a 3.85 GPA.
And then there's Solange Ngabure. She was born in a refugee camp after her family fled genocide. When it came time for college, she was denied a government scholarship simply because of her refugee status. But she didn't stop. She found another way and earned a full ride to study in Costa Rica.
So you hear these stories, Khadija, David, Solange, and they're just, wow, absolutely inspiring. But they also make you wonder, right? How in the world do they do it? Is it just some kind of magic? Or is there something real and tangible going on here that we can actually learn from?
Well, it turns out psychologists have been looking into this exact question for a while now, and they've got a name for it: academic buoyancy. This is the scientific idea that helps explain how some students manage to stay afloat through all the pressures of school life.
Okay, so here's the key thing to get. Academic buoyancy isn't necessarily about surviving a massive, once-in-a-lifetime crisis. It's more about the everyday stuff. It's the skill of dealing with the normal, day-to-day challenges of being a student. You know, a bad grade, a bunch of deadlines hitting at once, that killer exam pressure, and still finding a way to keep moving forward.
Yeah, this slide really breaks it down nicely. Think of it like this. Classic resilience is about bouncing back from a giant tidal wave, like severe trauma or homelessness. Academic buoyancy, though, that's about learning how to navigate all the smaller, choppy waves that hit you constantly in school. It's about staying upright during the daily grind.
So, if academic buoyancy is the skill, how do you actually get it? Well, researchers have zeroed in on 5 key predictors. They call them the 5 C's. You can think of these as the 5 core ingredients for staying afloat when you're facing those academic challenges. And here they are: confidence, which is really about believing in yourself. Coordination, that's your ability to plan things out. Control, the feeling that you're the one steering the ship. Composure, basically keeping your cool under pressure. And commitment, which is all about persistence. Each one is like a different psychological muscle, so let's break them down and see what they look like in the real world.
Okay, this is where it all comes together. We're going to connect these 5 principles right back to the stories of real students, to show how these aren't just abstract ideas in a textbook, they're what people live and breathe every single day.
First out, we've got commitment. You might know it by another name: grit. It's that fire in your belly, that internal drive that keeps you focused on your goals, especially when it gets tough. It's all about sticking with it.
And Ava Jaharian's story is the perfect example of this. She left her entire family behind in Iran and moved to Canada, all by herself, at just 16 years old. Can you even imagine that? She said she was so full of this dream that nothing was going to stop her. That right there is commitment in action.
Next up, C number 2, confidence. Now, this isn't about being arrogant or cocky. This is about what psychologists call self-efficacy. It's that quiet, solid belief deep down that says, yeah, I've got what it takes to handle this.
Joanna Rodriguez's story here is just so powerful. After battling addiction and being incarcerated, she got a scholarship and earned a 4.0 her very first semester. That success wasn't just a grade. For her, it was proof. It helped her see her own worth, which then gave her the confidence to push even harder. You see that? It's this amazing positive feedback loop.
The third C is control. This is all about feeling like you're in the driver's seat of your own education. Students who have this don't just see themselves as victims of circumstance. No, they actively look for ways to shape their own path.
And Julie Cochran is a masterclass in this. She was battling a chronic illness, she became a new mom, she had every reason to give up, but she refused to give up control. She kept searching until she found a school that would let her work at her own pace. She took charge to make sure she could keep a promise she made to her late father.
All right, on to C number 4, coordination. This is the practical, nuts and bolts side of success. It's about having a roadmap, setting your goals, managing your time, and just generally getting organized.
Just look at Latif. He fled Ghana alone at 16 and ended up in foster care.
But listen to what his coach Nathan said. Latif already had a plan. He was so focused, so clear on his goals, that it made the coach's job easy. That right there is coordination.
And finally, we have the fifth C, composure. This is all about keeping your cool when the pressure is on. You know that feeling you get right before a huge final exam? That's what we're talking about. Composure is what helps you think clearly instead of letting anxiety take over.
And this brings us right back to David Teplitz. Just try for a second to imagine the immense daily pressure of navigating a top university like Berkeley without being able to speak easily. And yet, he and his friend Hari didn't just manage it, they excelled, graduating with nearly perfect grades. Their ability to perform under that kind of constant stress is just an unbelievable display of composure.
Now, we have our 5 C's, and it would be really easy to just stop there and say, that's it. The secret is just to be gritty. But that's not the whole story, not even close. Some researchers argue that focusing only on individual traits is actually a problem.
Professor Angie Hart, for instance, brings up this really critical point. She's basically saying, hey, wait a minute. We can't put all the pressure on the student to just be more buoyant. If the system itself, the school, the community, society, is actively pushing them underwater, we have to look at the bigger picture.
And that powerful critique has led some to propose a sixth C, community. And when you look back at the stories, it's everywhere, right? Khadijah Williams, the Harvard grad, she says family engagement is the absolute key. Research shows that support from a teacher or a caregiver can literally buffer a child's brain from the effects of toxic stress. Or think of Janie S., who said her debate coach was the lifeline that kept her going. This shows that support systems aren't just nice-to-haves, they're game changers.
So after hearing all this, what's the big takeaway? Well, the journeys of these students give us a pretty powerful lesson, not just about personal strength, but about how learning and support really work.
This quote, man, it just perfectly captures the heart of every single student we've talked about. They were all so willing to seek out knowledge, to fight for it, because they knew it was the key to rewriting their own stories.
And that leaves us with this final big idea. The 5 C's are crucial, for sure. But that proposed 6th C, community, that's the foundation everything else is built on. Success isn't a solo journey, it's a team sport. And that leaves us with a question, not for them, but for us. How can we all become a more active part of that support system for someone else?